humans experience, that we're not good enough, or like we're failures at everything. And
Oh, absolutely. I believe it's naturally like part of just the way we're our makeup, right? To doubt, like to question.
mm-hmm.
That's creativity in itself. Um, I don't think it's really that much different. I think the beauty of when we create something, we can actually see something tangible,
Mm-hmm.
um, like in front of us. From those emotions, from those actions. It's but art in the purest form is just life.
Yeah,
That's wild.
yeah.
Yeah, it's wild.
I think you said it. Um, you said everything begins with doubt,
Mm.
and that makes me think of a quote by Rene Descartes. Uh, I believe he was Spanish. I could be wrong.
Okay.
A philosopher, um, and he said, "I doubt, therefore I think. I think, therefore I am." Essentially meaning that yes, everything begins with doubt, and you can't really prove anything. I mean, we live in a really strange time. I mean, we have this constant access to information that a lot of it I think we perceive as fact,
Mm-hmm.
and we try to make meaning out of it, but that's really just not the. It's not the case.
I mean, you can go with no, I understand completely. There is a few. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are objective truths in this world. I do believe there are some objective truths, but I do believe we know a lot of a little bit of things. Like we know a lot about a little bit of things, right? And the things that we can perceive as uh, truth could also, I think, a lot of times stems from a place of we we stop searching, we stop looking, like we how can I say this? Um, a, a lot of times, I think we just become, yeah, we stop looking beyond what we think we know. Like I think, like if we have an idea and it's this is what it is. Always I always like refrain from like trusting someone who says they know something 100%, because I just know that there's always an opportunity for that conversation or that subject to be pushed forward
Mm-hmm.
with a little bit more information.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, man, it's just how it works, man. But I think this is a good time to introduce you, man. I think this is a good time to actually get this thing started.
Okay.
Cause I can literally sit here and talk with you. Then we are like, oh, we gotta do the episode now. But I think this is the perfect time, man. And for those listening, for those watching, we are here with another episode of The Art of Conversation. This is episode 6. And we're here in the TT Studios podcast studio. And I'm sitting here with a good friend of mine. And we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about quite a few things. We're going to talk about art. We're going to talk about a new exhibition. And we're also going to find other things to talk about, because guess what? We are creatives. So we have no idea where this conversation can lead. We're just going to allow you to be a fly on the wall and listen. So how you doing today, my friend?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. Now, if you don't mind, if you can introduce yourself to those that are watching, those that are listening.
My name is Anthony Angelilli.
Yeah. And Anthony, you, my friend, are, for one, I always appreciated the way the conversations we have. Not with the cameras on, not with the
Mm-hmm.
mics on. In general, your eye for creativity is something that is so intriguing to me, as well as, I want to say this while we're on camera, the work that you've created. The first time I got a chance to see it made me look at art different, and I actually see that actually coming out in the work that I'm creating now. So I'm just saying, as an artist, I appreciate your craft, my friend.
Wow, thank you.
And it means
I'm
a lot
flattered.
to be sitting here talking with you. So let's get into the conversation, man. So you're an artist,
I
and
am.
what type of medium is something that you tend to like to create? What medium are you using?
I primarily work with paint, um, but I work in drawing, in sculpture, site-specific installation, photography.
Mm-hmm.
I'd consider myself multidisciplinary.
Yeah, man. And when did you so when did you fall in love with art? Let's go back a little bit. You know, like who is Anthony? When did you find out that art was something that you wanted to engage in?
I don't, I've been asked this before, and I don't think it was ever necessarily art.
Right.
So I think of art as almost like a subject at the top,
Yeah.
right? And then there's all these subcategories that fall below art, such as the sciences, mathematics, philosophy, medicine, architecture.
Right.
There's a lot of pursuits that I think we have as human beings, and you can turn that pursuit into an art. It was, for me personally, it was not necessarily that I was interested in art, because that could be anything.
That's true. That's true.
And art for me was the best avenue to take, because it allowed me to be free, as in I could engage in the world in various ways without ever really having a main title. Like I'm not a lawyer that just goes to work every day and I do that for the next so many years.
So many years, I do understand.
Yeah. I'm interested in a lot of things, and art was just the avenue that seemed best.
So was there ever a time when you were maybe when you were younger, you went into a museum, or you walked past a statue, and you may have realized, like, this is something that I want to explore more. Was there ever a moment like that?
Yeah. So my family is rather artistic. My dad studied architecture, and a lot of his side of the family, including my mom's side, are really like painters and singers.
Right.
They're very hands-on people.
Okay.
They're very hands-on. Everything they do is about touch and.
Oh, so you grew up in the household.
Yeah.
So you were that house on the block where all the creatives in it. Okay.
I was that house on the block where there was a different project going on every week or every day.
I love that, man. That sounds like a grand time. That sounds like a hell of a childhood, my friend. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember my dad always loved. He loves architecture. He loves building things. So I was exposed to that very early.
Okay.
And so I guess, he's an influence in a way to how I'm living my life now. But we're still very different people. But I remember, he would get 2 tons of stone delivered in the driveway.
Just on a random Tuesday, or just
yeah, to stone, to make rock beds with flowers.
Exactly.
And but in my spare time, I would always be really fascinated by really the rocks. I just thought they were so cool. I would stand out in that pile for hours looking for fossils.
Right. And you know what? And that makes sense. That makes so much more sense because I know your work. And for those that are watching, I do encourage you to go onto Anthony's page and check out his work. And that statement right there, now we're getting to who you are now.
Yeah.
I love that. What was it about the rocks that you enjoyed? Like or just that texture.
I think
those items.
that they're small and intimate. The texture, the way they feel, the different lines or patterns that you might find in one, and sometimes you would find, the imprint of a leaf or something.
Right.
that I just thought was so fascinating, because a rock to me is almost like it's a part of time that has condensed into itself and is captured. Um, and it's difficult to explain.
No,
It's
no,
you
no.
just
I hope
I
you keep going further. I would want to hear more
well,
about this. Yeah.
I just think of how everything constantly changes and erodes. Things are constantly built up, and then they break down, and then it's built up again, and then it breaks down. It's just a constant process.
Right.
But rocks, so it seems, they just stay the same. If they are preserved in themselves, they don't necessarily go away. One day, eventually, they will. But for our lifetime and lifetimes beyond our own, they will still be here. And I just think that's really cool.
Yeah, man. My next question was, how long were you looking at those rocks to grasp that that uh that perspective of it? But no, man, you're making me think of the world different right
Well,
now.
I mean, that's a not that long.
Yeah.
I would spend some hours out there,
Mhm.
really just playing in a rock pile and in dirt. But that's a acquired thoughts from experiences that I've had
Right.
from living.
So when did it come down to the point where you start putting paint on the canvas, or you started to assemble items that you would find and create, I would say sculpt your pieces?
Um, I think after I graduated college,
Okay.
um,
Hold up, before we go there, where did you grow up at?
I grew up in Youngstown, Ohio.
Youngstown, Ohio. Okay.
Mhm.
And where'd you go to college? You said you went to
Youngstown State.
Youngstown State. Okay.
Yeah. Um, so I studied art at Youngstown State, and my undergrad was very experimental. I was constantly radiating towards different things, and I just couldn't figure out what I really liked, what materials I liked.
Mhm.
Uh, until I graduated, and then the real world comes on, and
It'll smack you right in the
uh,
face. That's how it
yeah,
works.
but it's exciting, is it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's exciting. I think we should be more excited for the real world.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was okay. This is what I want to do. How am I gonna get there? And that really began with acquiring my first studio space. It was actually in Youngstown at the Ward Bakery. I believe it has closed since then.
Oh,
But it was a great maker space
right.
for artists, creatives, almost like a TT Studios. And you could have a space, and you could experiment within that space and make artwork. And I would say that is really where my roots are. That space made me who I am, and it also has influenced the way that I approach artwork and making.
I think that's so important, man.
It's really important.
Yeah.
I think having solitude
Mm.
is it's key to figuring out what you want. Not even as an artist, but just as a person.
Yeah,
What do you want from your life? What do you want to do?
right. And I think I think we grow up these days, having this idea that by the time you're 18 or 21, you should know what you want to do for the rest of your
Yeah.
life. And that is so idiotic to me.
It is.
It really is.
I think it is too. I think
Yeah.
it's. At 18, think about it. 2 years ago, you were 16. What did you know at
Come on.
16? Nothing.
Nothing.
I still know nothing.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I know, right? I'm 38 and I still
Yeah.
am figuring this thing out. To have, and for me to look back and think of, I put so much pressure on myself at 18 that, look, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. I must be a failure. Like, that would come through my head, the doubt. We kind of talked about that before.
Mhm.
Of, I obviously am not doing this right. But I think for those that are that are younger that are coming up in this world today, I think it's important for them to hear this story and to understand you are supposed to try a lot of different things and find, and because you're not going to get it right the first time.
No.
If you think
No.
you know what you're going to be for the rest of your life right now and you're under the age of 18, don't get me wrong, there's some people out there, there's very few that actually get it right, but a lot of us have ideas of things that make us happy, and you're going to find different things as well that make you happy. You're going to find different things and different experiences that you tend to like more than others, and you can't do that if you don't try a lot of things, and that's part of the process, man.
It is.
So when you were sitting there, you were trying a lot of things, and you were in an environment in Youngstown that was help cultivating this spark in you, for this creative spark. Was there anybody you met in those facilities that helped shape you where you're at today?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Dragan Osarniak was my painting instructor for I think 2 years. Chris McCullough, Claudia Berlinski. I might be missing some people. I forgot his name. He was my sculpting professor. Tony Armini. There's one more. Lauren Baker. They were all professors that I really gravitated towards, and they influenced me in a really good way, and they exposed me to those new materials to try different things. Right. I was getting a lot of different viewpoints from all of them, which only helped me and helped them, because we would bounce ideas off each other all the time. Yeah. About art, just living in general, the world, remaining curious about everything.
Absolutely. I don't think people understand as well, those that are in the position to mentor or those that are in the position to teach, that by you not paying it forward or taking on a mentee, you're actually losing an opportunity to grow your craft as well from where you're at, because it is a two-way streak.
It is.
Like, you're teaching them different tools and different ways of thinking that they just couldn't think of because they're beyond that, right? They're a little older, as well as they're teaching you. It is a cross-pollination of information, man.
Yeah.
So what was one of, as a collective, leaving that space, what would you say is maybe the most important gem that you gathered?
The most important gem that I gathered?
Gem, like piece of information, life lessons, and it doesn't have to be about art.
Yeah.
I think it's more important that it's not about art. Like in your life, what do you think is something you carried from that I don't want to say situation, but that journey?
Can I talk about an encounter I had with someone else?
Absolutely.
So it's funny, I was going through college, I think, and I was entering my junior year, and honestly, I was really depressed, and I didn't understand how I was going to get to my next step after graduating. Like, that seemed to be a key link that I was missing, but I also just wasn't happy. So I don't know why, but for some reason I felt like I had to go talk to Jim Tressel.
Okay.
Because he was the oh my gosh, not I'm losing the word, not professor. He was the president of Youngstown State.
Okay.
But one of the qualities that I noticed out of him is that he was always involved with the student body. He didn't separate himself as the president of the university, and therefore he couldn't interact with the student body. He didn't like. I was never under the impression that he saw himself as someone who was better than anyone else, considering his title. So yeah, I don't know. I went to the college that he was located in, and I asked if he was there, and they said yeah. So I said, "Am I able to talk with him?" And they said yeah. And he almost immediately, he must have been listening
Right.
from his office. He came out and he said, "Come on in here." I said, "Okay." He's like, "What's going on?" I was like, "I really need to talk about a lot of things." And I asked him if he was happy, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm happy." He's like, "Are you happy?" I'm like, "No, because I don't really know what I'm doing." And he essentially just kind of settled me down because I was really flustered that day.
Right.
And for some reason he touched me in a way that I have carried into my adult life, where he made it seem very important that people are very important, and I try to practice that as best as I can. I really try to involve people and listen to people, because if you just listen to people, a lot of the times they're really expressing like their deepest concerns about something. And I just think that's important, that you try and listen, even if you forget someone's name,
Right.
or you don't remember everything that they've said. But if you're able to take away at least one thing that they told you, that's important.
That's important.
It's important.
I absolutely.
And
I don't think you could have put it any other
so
better
to
way.
kind of bring it back around, that's
Yeah.
what I got from meeting with Jim Tressel, is that people are important. And here I am still
Here
practicing it. Yeah.
There we go, man. I mean, no,
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely beautiful, man. It's poetry in itself. Just the way you said that's it's wild, man. We usually you're expecting, I don't know why, but for some reason, like when I ask that question, sometimes I'm expecting something so complicated, something I'd never thought of.
Yeah.
Something so so profound, right? And I think the most profound things is simplest. It's so simple, so
Yeah.
simple.
Very simple.
Just putting those words together. People are important.
Yeah.
They say, it makes me think of, and this is wow, this is a complete left from our conversation. It makes me think of Mr. Miyagi from Karate Kid, right? And the reason I'm gonna say this, bear with me, people,
Okay.
bear with me, right? The reason I'm gonna say this is, someone who is considered maybe a sensei or a guru is someone who has massive amounts of wisdom. They don't talk with a lot of words. They can say a few words that means a lot of things because they understand what they're saying, and how they say it can translate in no matter where you are in your journey.
Yeah.
And so I find people that can say a lot of things in a little bit of words really understand the subject or whatever you're going to acquire from them. And someone always says, when you ask somebody a question and they give you a lot of words in the answer, I think it's sometimes you need to beware. But if you ask somebody a question and the answer is very minute, very small, very direct, it doesn't matter if you're a college professor or a kindergartner, but you can understand it. That to me is profound. And what that man did was see that simple saying, people are important, is absolutely beautiful. And I'm happy that you shared that gem with us. All right, let's move this thing forward though, because we're talking about the craft. We're talking about how you develop these skills as well. But you're putting all of your knowledge, all of your experiences. You're letting the world see them as well. And you have something coming up soon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
On the 6th of December.
Absolutely.
There's a group exhibition. Do you want to say it?
No, you go ahead. Bring it in, man. You got it.
On the 6th of December, there's a group exhibition of 5 Pittsburgh-based artists showing new artwork at Rockwell Park. The name of the exhibition is called Atop the Rock, and it hosts Dan Droz, Val M. Cox, Cameron Breeze, Steve Schwartz, and myself as the exhibiting artists.
Yeah, where did the name come from? Atop the Rock?
I think we just got it from the fact that the name of the facility is called Rockwell Park. So we came up with a title that sort of fit the facility name as well.
And I know it had the word rock in it, so you were all
honestly,
in.
It's that funny how things happen.
I'm sorry, because when we started the conversation, I was like, you chose the name, didn't you? No, but that's absolutely...
It's also on the 6th floor, so
Yeah.
it's on one of the top floors, hence the Top the Rock.
Top the Rock.
Yeah.
It's actually genius. It's actually genius. So let's talk about the show. Let's talk about how you approach the show.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think group shows are, they're amazing.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm not a fan of them because it feels like a lot of people are going in separate directions sometimes. But you know, when you have a group show, is this all, are you guys carrying the same theme, or is it everyone kind of bringing their selves to the table with their own style, own narrative?
I would say the goal is to have a similar theme. Between each artist's work, we have similarities in terms of the way that the work looks, their texture,
Right.
The colors, if there's harmony within the pieces. The theme is the fact that we just wanted to show art.
Right.
I apply to open calls and artistic opportunities all the time.
Right.
And you can't rely on that all the time. Sometimes you just have to take matters into your own hands and
Absolutely.
Just do it yourself.
Forget about asking for permission.
Yeah.
Forget about asking for someone to give you opportunity.
Yeah, just create your own opportunity.
Absolutely, man.
It's honestly super laid back. There's no particular theme other than the fact that I wanted to give other people the opportunity to show their work. And I would say by chance, all of their work is similar in ways, but surely different because they're each individuals.
Right. If you say are similar in ways, like in what ways do you feel like they're similar?
For example, Vel M. Cox and Dan Droz, their work is similar because Vel, I would assume, considers himself a painter. I might be wrong. But his work is very sculptural-like,
Right.
except it hangs on a wall. And then he paints over the surface of the support that he's made for his piece.
Right.
Where Dan's work sits on the ground as a sculpture, but there's similar elements to both of their pieces that sort of translate to each other, whether it's the color, the texture, lines, implied line. Same with Cameron's. Cameron's work may be the most different because he's a photographer, but he's...
Oh wow, you guys really mixed them up. The mediums. Okay.
But Cameron's work is impressive to me because he develops all of his images in a black room, which is essentially really a dying art.
Absolutely.
But he maintains it, and I think his work is really great because he can physically touch the image that he wants to develop. It's not digitized. He's not processing images through Photoshop or Adobe Lightroom. He's working with chemicals to develop a lot of his pictures that he takes.
Yeah.
And if you're able to see them in person, if you come to the show, you'll see his work doesn't do it justice when you're looking at it from a
screen.
From a screen, it just does not do it justice.
And I feel most art. I mean, actually, I feel all art.
Yes,
I feel all art.
I'd agree. Yeah.
It does a disservice to just look at it through a screen. Go and see it. Go and there's an energy that comes with each piece that you will not understand if you're not standing in front of it.
Yeah.
If you're not looking at it. If you're not wanting to touch it, but you can't. You know what I mean? Like that, having that emotion. So, how did you end up acquiring these I'm gonna call them you're like Samuel L. Jackson in the Avengers right now. How did you acquire these heroes and put them all in one space? Like, how did you curate this selection?
So I met Vel when I moved here. There was a retrospective of his work at Brewhouse Arts.
Okay.
And I immediately fell in love with his work. And we also see eye to eye when it comes to painting. So he was really the first person to suggest to me that he wanted to have a show of his work together with mine. And since then, I mean, that was 3 or 4 years ago, I've been working to sort of gather different people that would be suitable for this show. At first, it was just Val and I,
mm-hmm.
and then it sort of became more than that. And I met Cameron, a little over a year ago. So I've stayed in touch with Cameron and Val. And Cameron has a studio space at Rockwell Park. And he introduced me to Steve Schwartz, who also has a studio at Rockwell Park. But
Right.
Steve is a retired dentist who took up painting. So Steve is actually painting, as far as I know, for the first time. And
Steve, he wasn't a dentist in Squirrel Hill, was he?
he might have been, yes.
I know that name. If it's not, there's not too many names that ring a bell just the way that name has rung a bell. But well, kudos to him. I'm not even going to go into that right now in this conversation, but I definitely need to stop in on the 6. I really
he's making.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think he's producing really good work. And we laughed because painting is humbling. It humbles you, really. It's humiliating when you are working on something for days and you think you have accomplished something and you're so proud of yourself, and then the next day you come back and look at it and
it's completely different.
It's completely different. You're like, what was I thinking?
How do you approach moments like for me personally? And I want to put myself. Me personally, man, I had that experience so many times that I stopped looking for it and I just appreciate the moment and trust the process.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel work is as to me it doesn't. It's not as important to me if I don't experience that. It's like forget the outcome. It is the journey.
Mm-hmm.
It's the whole journey that I fell in love with now.
Yeah.
Instead of just the outcome. The outcome does hold a special place, but the journey is so much more important to me. What is the journey like for you while you're I know we're talking about the artist that you're curating, but when you navigate one of your pieces, what is that journey like? What does that feel like? What does that look like?
Frustration.
You're so calm, bro. You're so calm. I can tell on the laugh. It was like, nah, man, you all know.
Well, it's fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a blast in the studio making paintings, making drawings, making sculptures, watercolors, photographs. I'm constantly working between one or the other.
Okay.
And sometimes paintings inform sculptures, or sometimes a sculpture informs a drawing.
Right.
There's different ways of thinking about it. But it's frustrating, right? It's a humbling experience, especially with painting. For me in particular, it's and it is those things. I mean, I don't. Are you asking if I'm working on like a particular theme too,
Well,
or?
no. I'm more asking. What is the process? And this is a loaded question.
Oh,
This is
okay,
going to be a
okay.
loaded question.
I know
What
what
is the process from beginning to end?
Understood.
And you were in there. No, you were all the way in there. I think we got real deep on understanding where the inspiration comes from, and that's where you were at. But
Honestly, go ahead. I'm
oh no,
sorry.
no. But that's where we're at.
I think a lot of the inspiration comes from prepping the work. It's so much of my work is prep work, prepping the painting, prepping the sculpture, prepping the drawing. I have various work methodologies that I tend to through each piece. For example, if I'm working on a painting, over the last few years, I've incorporated twine into the canvas. I tend to wrap the canvas with twine, so the twine for me seems to encapsulate another space that is not on the canvas. It for some reason allows me to not go outside of the boundaries of the twine. I might be explaining this.
No. Because that's what. Remember, I told you inspired some of my pieces.
Yeah,
It was that
the twine.
that changed the game for me.
Yeah.
That changed the game for me. I am pleased. Please go forward. Please go forward with that.
So yeah, they're wrapped in twine, almost like a grid, and for some reason, having the twine there allows me to work on a much smaller scale, and I already work really small. I used to work really large. I used to make paintings that were 4 feet by 4 feet.
Whoa!
And
Seriously?
yeah, I mean they're in storage, and I've never shown them anywhere except I think during my undergrad. I mean now my paintings are 6 inches by 8 inches,
Right.
or 8 inches by 10. They're very small in scale, intimate,
Right.
for viewing. And a part of that was just honestly like getting older,
Yeah.
and having to think about lugging around this like massive painting just
You got real quick right there.
yeah.
Like, yeah, that's
I was like I don't need to do
respect.
this to myself.
Respect. Yeah.
I don't think. I mean, you don't need to make a very large piece of art to be ambitious.
Right.
That could, I mean, I'm making paintings that I just said are very small, but it's perhaps one of my most ambitious projects to date. So yeah, the canvas.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, the canvas. I'm wrapping them in twine. The sculptures are wrapped in twine. The drawings are just drawings, except I draw on graph paper.
I remember you showed me. I seen one of your shows. I think your show at Ketchup City, Ketchup City Creative. We got a chance to go like see your graph paintings. You know, and like you said, your father loves architecture, and to me, it felt like almost a blueprint.
Yeah, they're architectural in ways.
Yeah, so it was just absolutely amazing. So moving past, okay, maybe you're working with the twine. It's starting to become something, but you're still navigating a void to understand what this is that you're looking at, or how do you push forward past the twine? Is I guess a better way of asking.
I don't think I'm pushing past it. I just continuously push into it and embrace it. Especially with I made these sculptures out of car seat headrests.
Right.
Those are actually at
I
Ketchup
seen those
City.
at Ketchup. Yeah, I remember there was all the ones that were on. There was a display of them. Yeah, that was really cool, man.
Thanks.
Yeah,
It's funny how those sort of where the idea came from. I can get into that later, but I've always been influenced by architectural, or I'm sorry, not well, they're sort of architectural I've always been inspired by places such as Lascaux Cave. It's a cave in France with primitive drawings. Göbekli Tepe is another early human settlement that have like megaliths that are engraved with markings and drawings from.
Did you ever go visit some of these places?
I haven't. I'd love to.
I knew you were in Italy for a while, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. In undergrad, I don't know if it was undergrad, but I know you spent some time across the pond. I know that.
I still have some family there on my dad's side.
Oh, okay.
Which that's one of the reasons why I went. But in 2020, a year after COVID, I received the early career fellowship, the Ostra-Zarina Early Career Fellowship from the Civita Institute, and through that fellowship, I had the opportunity to go live, work, and study in Italy for 1 month.
Yeah. Whew.
Yeah.
That's it. So you know what? We can, and we will literally sit here and talk for 2-3 hours. You know what I mean? But I know we have to push forward. There is so much more I want to uncover with you. Yeah. This is like the first time, not the last time. But because and for those watching, I don't know why you haven't clicked the button yet and just looked at the page and look at his work. Look at Anthony's work. You'll get a better understanding of why this conversation is going the way it's going. So Anthony, we have the show on December 6th, and I'm gonna get to it because I think we might have to make this a part 2.
Okay.
Because there is so much more I actually want to get in with you, but we have a show December 6th, and it is atop the rock. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah.
Atop the rock.
Atop the rock.
At Rockwell.
At Rockwell Park.
This is
located in Wilkinsburg.
In Wilkinsburg.
Yeah.
And thank you. Look, I grew up in Pittsburgh. I grew up in Braddock in the early 80s. Not early 80s. I'm sorry. My kids keep telling me I was born in the late 1900s. But I grew up in the late 80s, early 90s, and the 2000s. And wasn't much going on in Braddock. And some of the tri-state area, Wilkinsburg being one of those, Swissville being one of those, to see the evolution of these towns being pushed forward with art.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I mean, from the O-Ringer in Wilkinsburg to Rockwell Park in Wilkinsburg. I mean, in the O-Ringer in Braddock and then Rockwell Park in Wilkinsburg, man, it's just beautiful to see these things exist and let these kids explore their imaginations because they've seen a place in their town growing up where creativity is cherished and it is praised, you know. So I'm so grateful that this show is in Wilkinsburg, man. And is there anything else that we want to touch on? There is something I do want to touch on because before we kind of started the conversation, and you're about to have a show with your fellow artists. Mm-hmm. You know, recently there was something that happened that you kind of found out about with other artists that meant a lot to you, mm-hmm. And I wanted to kind of touch on that before we do end this one today, because opportunities such as this show. Where you're bringing artists together to create an experience and work together and collaborate. The world needs to see more of that. I always say Steve Woz had to meet Steve Jobs to create something that changed the world forever. And it's the same with artists. And we need to cherish those connections. We need to cherish those relationships, and we need to highlight them. But if you don't mind, kind of talking about what we talked about before this camera came on, mm-hmm. About a friend or two friends of yours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I really just want to dedicate this podcast, I guess, to Bian Hall, who is an artist fellow that I lived and worked with in Italy, and Tony Costa Haywood, who I also had the opportunity to live and work with while I lived in Italy. He was an architect. They are part of the Civita Institute. the institution that I received this fellowship from, which has influenced my work, to this day. Really, that experience, living with them, working with them, has pushed me to continue their mission, where some of the most important things in our lives are people, art, and food. So I just like to dedicate it to them. I recently found out that they passed. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
And hats off to you, these gentlemen. And I know for a fact, Anthony, you hold that torch, and you're gonna hold it high.
Yeah.
And we're gonna shine bright with it. And thank you so much, man.
Thank you, Corey.
Thank you so much for you exploring your journey. Your journey inspires me, and I know there's gonna be a few other people out in this world that are gonna say the same. And yeah, man. I think we just did a podcast. Man.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we just did. I told you, this all disappears. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. Anthony, thank you for being here.
Thanks for
Don't
having
forget,
me.
guys, December 6th, Rockwell Park, atop the rock. 6 artists that will be
5 artists.
Oh, I'm sorry.
5
artists. See, I'm going because I was actually trying to put myself into it. You see that happen? No, there's 5 artists that are going to be displaying their work in a group show from 6 to 9. Guys, you'll be doing yourself a disservice not seeing this work in person, not experiencing it, and not meeting the artists that are at hand. Thank you once again, Anthony. We're on our way out.
Thank you, Corey.
All right. Have a good one, guys.